All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar, Kadash. And the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashon Holy Tongue. And I say, Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwa, and I say, Shalom. And this is a sit down lesson that I want to bring up for the prophecy updates as of August the 24th, 2026, on this Monday afternoon. And this is a news article from RT.com. And, especially with these economical wars between Iran and the United States and the battle of the Strait of Hormuz, which we've been speaking about for the past week and a half or so, consistently on a day-to-day basis. So these the battle of the Strait of Hormuz between Iran and the United States, and the economical war between the United States and Iran. So the United States, they switched that strategy up. They switched from using nuclear capability and missile strikes against Iran. Now they switched it from from an economical war perspective. So these economical wars are heating up between Iran and the United States. And then you had I think it was the U.S. Secretary, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Benson. It says U.S. unveils a economic onslaught against Iran. It says that Iran's top negotiator has dismissed the latest threats from Washington as empty bomb blasts. It says the U.S. Treasury Scott Benson has announced a new sanctions against Iran and threatening to boot any country dealing financially with Iran out of the U.S. dollar system. It says in a bid to make the Iranian economic outcast. It says the new sanctions target nearly 60 entities, individuals, and vessels in multiple jurisdictions that allegedly trade with elite elixir of nuclear and missile technology with Iran, right? Especially China, North Korea, uh, what's those other countries, and any other country that's allies with Iran, because they're going to use economic sanctions on it. And that's why you had, was that a couple of days ago? That's why you had Beijing had called out the United States for threatening Iran with economical sanctions. So this is going to be more increasing economical wars, I would say oil wars, sanction wars, and nuclear wars between these nations. Especially like I said, Matthew's 24th chapter that Yahushua says there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. Now, right now, at the moment, we're seeing these economical wars, and these sanctioned wars and economical wars. It says the Treasury also said that identifying of the digital assets and technology and gold and application of shipping in areas of potential secondary sanctions. Speaking at a press conference later on Monday, Scott Basson, the Secretary of U.S. Treasury, it says went further, announced that the beginning of the operational economic outcast, which is described as an economic onslaught against Iran financial uh, connections around the globe. It says in a second World War II D-Day marked the historical beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its position, including those in those third countries. Today, in the same spirit, we are launching a, that's the spirit too, because Esau's got that same spirit. And he got that same spirit of using economical sanctions, trying to steal people resources. Hey, Esau still got that same spirit to still to this day. That's why the scripture says, what's that Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9, there's no new thing under the sun. It says today, in the same spirit, we are launching a economical onslaught against Iran's financial connections. It says Basson explains that the U.S. will penalize any country refusing to serve its economic ties with Iran and any entity. Right, because you had the top negotiator of Iran. I think he said the day before yesterday, he was saying that anybody that's down with the United States using this economical strategy against them, they're going to look at them as an enemy. It says Iran exports goods to 147 countries and imports 114, according to the most recent data in the World Bank. asking how the U.S. intends to force three-quarters of the world's nations to cease trade with Iran. The Bastion says that the U.S. President Donald Trump phoned multiple world leaders over the weekend, specifying requests to cease their interaction with Iran, and that every country has been given a defined timeline to comply with his demands. Because most of these countries are not going to meet his demands. There were 47 demands. They most likely they're going to stand with Iran, especially like China and Russia and North Korea and all these other countries, even Cuba as well too. And that's why it was that a couple of months ago. That's why they trying to get the president of Cuba. They trying to get him out of him for being president. That's why they've been hitting it with economical sanctions, emergency sanctions. What was that last year and this year as well too. So definitely these economical wars and sanction wars definitely gonna heat up between these nations. So right, right, bring up that Matthew's 24th chapter. So this is book of Matthew, chapter 24, in verse 6. It says, Salaki. Yeah, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, in verse 6. It says, Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? So we see these economical wars between these nations. So these are political wars, geopolitical wars, economical wars, nuclear wars, oil wars, sanction wars. They're going to continue to increase, and that's what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. It says, Ye shall hear of wars, rumors of wars, right? Potentially between Russia and Ukraine. It says, Ye shall hear of wars, rumors of wars, right? Economical wars between Russia and the United States. That's going to show forth once again, just like a month ago, they put those economical sanctions on Russia. I think to like the second or third time they did already. It says, and then ever since February of this year, the nuclear treaty, a nuclear arms treaty deal expired between Russia and the United States. So I won't be surprised that economical wars and nuclear wars heat back up between Russia and the United States, even though it's been on and on back and forth. It says you should hear of wars, rumors of wars, right, on a daily basis, up and down, back and forth of a modern day balance scale of these wars and rumors of wars between these armies and nations. It says he should hear of wars and rumors of wars, see that you may not trouble for all of these things must first come to pass, but it is not yet, right? So it's going to come to pass, not going to end just yet. It says Matthew 24 and verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, right? So we're seeing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, especially from a nuclear war perspective and an economical war perspective. It says there shall be famines and pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, right? Because you had back-to-back earthquakes over there in Japan, a 6.0 earthquake, and I think it's this area called Timor-Leste. It was a 6.0 earthquake in that area. So we definitely going to be seeing the increasing of these uptick of earthquakes in diverse places. We're going to be seeing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines and pestilence plagues right along with it. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Right, so all these biblical signs that we see in our world says are going to continue to increase, and we're seeing signs of that. And this is the book of Luke 21, verse 25. So, like I mentioned again, the tension between Russia and the United States, that's going to heat back up. And you got NATO versus Belarus and Russia, that's going to continue to heat up. And then the tensions between Iran and the United States with these economic wars taking place, that's only going to intensify by the day. And then these recent trade wars between Canada and the United States, that's only going to continue to increase. And this is the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. Yeah, this book of Luke 21, verse 25 reads, it says, there shall be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth the rest of nations with perplexity which wrong. So we see the nations are in the uptick or in perplexity in multiple different category ways, because you're seeing a lot of uncertainty among the nations, mentally, spiritually, financially, sedition wise, uprising wise. So that's going to continue to increase. And of course, we're seeing the signs in the sun, the moon, stars with these recent blood moons and all these signs in the sun that we see, that we've been seeing in the skies, the sign of the sun, the moon, stars right along with it, and the next are perplexity. So that's going to continue to increase. So I'm going to check out some more news articles that leads into biblical prophecies. So I'm going to check, let's check out Altus area, check the latest on that. And this is from Al Jazeera. It says U.S. announced new sanctions against Iran. Trump asks allies to join. Some of the allies might join, but the majority Western is not going to join them because they're going to join with Iran because they're going to coincide with Iran representing the United States. It says U.S. says it's prepared to use military force against Iran and is ready for moves elsewhere. Right. So if the United States going to use that, that means Iran they're going to use military force once again, like they previously did for the past couple months, especially with the battle of the ready for moves. So that's going to continue to increase. So let's go back to Matthew's 24th chapter that Yahushua spoke about. It's going to be an uptick of wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and that's what we're seeing. So that's something that will continue to increase. So we'll read that again. It says a new U.S. sanctions announced, part of a political show. It's published 4 minutes ago. Updates from Al Jazeera. It says U.S. says. So we'll read this news article. This is 14 minutes ago. This is breaking news 15 minutes ago. It says U.S. is prepared to use military force against Iran and Hormuz elsewhere. It says a Pentagon chief, Pete Hegseth, says that the U.S. has not ruled out any importing military force against Iran and the Strait of Hormuz or any elsewhere. Right, so that's an indicator that the battle of the Strait of Hormuz is only going to continue to increase if it leads to that point of potential military force, according to Pete Hegseth. So he hasn't ruled it out yet. It says by no means we are foreclosing use a kinetic strikes anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz or around Iran, Defense Secretary told reporters. Hegseth says that Iran's knew the U.S. controlled the Strait of Hormuz, right? Because they reblocked the parts of the Strait of Hormuz once again. And then it was a news article, I think it was like 2 days ago, about 68 vessels of ships being rerouted because the oil tanker ship from the United States, the tanker ship of the United States has blocked the Strait of Hormuz, and then they have rerouted them as well too. And then on the other hand, you still got Iran still managing and controlling the Strait of Hormuz. That's why you had Oman and Iran came to an agreement. They got to an advanced stage of that as well too. Because I think they still working parts of that deal out as well too. Because I think they supposed to meet with each other today, Oman and Iran, about more further on the deal that they did a couple of weeks ago. It says Hegseth says Iran knew the U.S. controlled strategic waterways and the U.S. Navy blockage on support could not be breached. It says the defense secretary asserted that Iran could not withstand the pressure and exerted by U.S. forces in this economy where such is significant. It says Iran to overcome U.S. sanctions with wisdom and resolve, the governor's spokesperson has said. Right, so this is, it might affect them a little bit, but best believe they're going to overcome it. If they overcome this, if they overcame this war that they was prepared for a while back, best believe they're going to prepare for this economic war that the United States is going to use on them. Hey, I won't be surprised that Iran used economic sanctions against the United States. There's allies as well too. I won't be surprised. Yep, so leave it at that. Right, bring out the Ecclesiasticus, the 3rd chapter. And this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3. And Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, in a times of love, in a time of HATE, and a time of war, time peace, right? So we still live in a time of war with these economical wars and these tensions between these nations. And we're seeing the HATE is increasing as well too. Right, check out some more news articles. Check out the Arab News, another alternative news outlet. Yeah, check out the Middle East news. It says Israel fire unalive 2 young children, and Gaza medics has said U.S. proposed an expanding UN Sudan arms embargo to the entire country. Now, supposedly you had some peace deal in play over there in Sudan, but the situation is getting worse over there in the area of Sudan and South Sudan, which they've been going on for quite a while. So even if they do try to push forth a peace agreement, which is still going to have some heavy hostilities between those nations and different factions over there in Sudan and South Sudan. And that Luke 20 verse 25, that's definitely in full effect as well too. It says Israel Murkowski was the prime minister over there in Israel, but that's his true name, Murkowski. It says Israel's Murkowski says Iran tried to unalive one of his sons. If that is true, that lets you know that he's going to try to retaliate for that. So that's an indicator that lets you know that the tension between Iran and Israel is still going to continue to heat up. And then that's another indicator that most likely he's going to have to respond back to that. And then I won't be surprised they're going to use it with military force, which they always been doing. Because, they always play the victim. And that's why they've been bombing those innocent people over there in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Palestinian territory, because they've been doing a lot of no-righteous raids. So I won't be surprised the tension is going to heat back up once again between Iran and Israel. Because what was that, last month, you had the prime minister over there in Israel. He was saying that he's going to make sure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear capability. So that's an indicator that the tension between Iran and Israel is going to heat back up. Now, this is some type of claim that Benjamin Netanyahu was saying that his son was almost got. They try to, Benjamin Netanyahu was saying that Iran tried to unalive one of his sons. So that potentially might stir up tension between Iran and Israel once again, because these are two nations that are enemies. They don't get along with each other, because Iran and Israel don't get along with each other. So I'm going to leave it at that. Check out some more news articles. It says Pakistan Army chief arrives in Tehran to hold talks on U.S. economy D-Day. Right, because you're going to have Pakistan trying to be the meditator, trying to save the day. That's not going to stop the United States pushing forth of them using hard economic sanctions on Iran. So even if Pakistan chief and a meditator trying to push for peace talks against against Tehran, United States, that's out the window. It was that First Thessalonians 5 verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, self-destruction come upon them as a children of child shall escape. It says Iraq pushed back deadline for factions to disarm. Let's see. And this is a news article by Reuters on August 24th. It says Iran warns of vessels violating the Hormuz Strait rules and fine the detention. Right, so that lets you know that that's why you have Pete Hegseth made that as I was quoting him, he was saying that he doesn't rule out any more military actions or any escort in the Strait of Hormuz between Iran. So that lets you know that's an indicator that since Iran sent that warning towards any vessels that's violating their rules that they had in place, and fines as well too. So if they don't reply to that, best believe they're going to use missile strikes and drone strikes against them. Because the Strait of Hormuz is still fully controlled and ruled by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. So that's an indicator that the tension between the battle of the Strait of Hormuz between the United States and Iran is going to heat up once again, like I mentioned before. So these are signs of increasing uptick nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So these economic wars between these nations and these the battle of the Strait of Hormuz between these nations. It says Syria and Israel hold talks as U.S. meditates to ease tensions, even if they do ease tensions, because Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, is in full effect, because the Heavenly Father has pushed forth that. He pushed the Spirit towards that, because even if they do try to have talks to ease the tensions with that recent airstrike that took place 2 weeks ago, the Israelis did over there in Syria, because the tension between Israel and Turkey is going to heat back up, even if they try to ease the tensions. Even though the delegates from Israel and Syria met with each other, I think as of today or a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken. So that's only going to stir up more tensions. So it's not going to go in void. It says Israel warns Hamas of kite launch from Gaza. Right, I spoke about, read that yesterday. It says Israel forces raise flag over Palestinian mosque, right? Because you've been having heavy tensions be heating up over there in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Palestinian territory. Which that's nothing new. But I let you know tensions are only still going to continue to occur in that area. When they're trying to push forth these 15 peace plan deals and try to have a greater Israel project. So that let you know you're still going to have heavy clashes between the resistance of the Palestinians and Hezbollah as well too. They still going to be going against the Israel Defense Force, despite the fact that these nations trying to push forth peace talks. It says a blast target security forces near Damascus. Right. So we've been seeing a lot of activities been heating up over there near Damascus and throughout Damascus and throughout Syria. And that goes right along with that Isaiah, the 17th chapter. Because this is a future prophecy that's going to come past the field of Isaiah, the 17th chapter. This is the prophet Isaiah, chapter 17, verse 1. It says, the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus take away from me the city, and that shall be its ruin. Right, so Damascus, Assyria, ultimately is going to be taken away from me, and the city should be its ruin. Now, even though they're trying to rebel back over there, even though I've been saying this countless of times, even if I sound like a broken modern day prayer, even though I've been saying it countless of times, but this is a future prophecy still going to come to pass in the field, especially over there in the Middle East and Western Asia, and definitely over there in Syria, because you're still going to have heavy clashes of proxy groups. You're still going to have the pro-Iranian groups still going against the Israel Defense Force and their allies in that area, especially, I would say, the what's that? Especially what's that? The Kurdistan armies. I would say the pro-Kurdistan armies and the Kurdistan armies, and then you got the Syrian Defense Force, and you got the Israel Defense Force. Their force, they still gonna be teamed up together, going against the proxy groups and going against the pro-Iranian groups as well too. So this is a future prophecy of Isaiah 17 verse 1, still gonna come to pass, be fulfilled. And this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 17 and verse 9. Yep, Isaiah 17 verse 9. It says, in that day shall his grown city as be forsaken and brought in the uttermost branch, which they left because the children of Israel should be desolate. Right, so that area is going to be desolate. So it said, matter of fact, I'm going to check out some more updates for the Russia-Ukraine situation. Russia versus Ukraine latest updates. Go to AI Google review. It says the Russia-Ukraine updates. It says Ukraine has significantly that was seemed like that was a previous. Yeah, that was a previous. Yeah, that was a previous one. I'm trying to go to the latest one. Slovakia. Check out the Jerusalem Post instead. And then I'll get to that Ezekiel 30th chapter. It says the U.S. removes Syrian designated state of sponsor of TERR or SM. Right, so it doesn't matter if the United States will remove that from them, remove Syria from being a T-word state. And so it doesn't matter because you're still going to have heavy escalation and clashes still heating up over there in Syria. That's why I brought up that Isaiah 17 verse 1, because Damascus and Syria is still going to be taken away from you. The city should be Israel heat, because you're still going to have the Israel Defense Force still controlling those security zone areas over there in the Golden Heights, over there in Iraq and Syria, and over there in Lebanon as well too, which they supposedly withdraw from that area, but they still going to be managing that area. They still going to be dealing with multi-war fronts in that area still, despite the fact they agreed to withdraw from there. And you got the Lebanese soldiers in that area reaching the borders of Lebanon and Israel. So I won't be surprised Hezbollah be going against the Lebanese armies and Israel Defense Force armies, despite the fact they agreed to the ceasefire 15 peace plan deal that was revealed last month and a half ago. So I just want to add a sad note to it. This is Beirut, Lebanese ready for peace with Israel, breaks in Tel Aviv, analysts told Post. Well, that's not going to happen. When they shall say peace and safety, such rush come upon them as a trouble child shall escape. But you're still going to have heavy tension still heating up over there in Western Asia. So it's not going to cool down anytime soon, even if they do push forth the peace talks. But continue on. It says Saudi Arabia attacked in the Red Sea. National shipments companies conform following the Houthi claims. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. About the tension between the Houthi rebels and Saudi Arabia. That's still heating up as well too. I forgot all about that. This was recently, yeah, August the 24th. Yeah, this is from Reuters on August the 24th, 2026. It says Saudi Amaze Amazon ship was attacked in the Red Sea on Monday. It says Saudi Arabia. So this is not the first time that Saudi Arabia had war with the Houthi rebels. Especially back in I would say 2022. 4 years ago, ever since they signed that trust agreement, that ceasefire trust agreement, and it had ever since then it had to collapse. So now they started to redo escalation between Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Houthi rebels over there in the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea, and over there in Yemen as well too, which is fully controlled by the Houthi rebels in the northern region, the southern region of Yemen. It says because you got the Yemen governor army forces teaming up with Saudi Arabia going against the Houthi rebels, which is a pro-Iranian group. It says the Saudis' Amazon ship was attacked in the Red Sea on Monday. The Saudi Arabia's national shipment companies in Bahrain, if I pronounced that right, confirmed in a statement nothing that all the crew members were safe and no injuries has been reported. The confirmations followed by the claims that the Yemen's Iran aligned Houthis early on Monday that they attacked a vessel off of Saudi Arabia's port city of Yanbu. In the comments by the group's military spokesperson Yahya Shari in a televised speech. It says earlier in the day, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations, the UKMTO, it says agency says that the tanker was struck by an unknown projectile in 63 nautical miles west of Yanbu. The NKMTO says that because the scripture says, was that in the book of Genesis, that the Heavenly Father going to put the spirit on Ishmael. Ishmael should be as a wild man. And so Ishmael going to be teaming up with Elam versus Esau versus other Ishmaelites. So that tensions are only going to stir up in the Middle East, which is Western Asia. It says that's why Joel, the third chapter, is in full effect. Wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Now, of course, it says in second Ezra, I think second Ezra, the 15th chapter, that the dragons of Arabia are going to wake up as well too. It says the UKMTO says that all true were safe and accounted with no reports accounting impact. Yanbu is a Saudi Arabia main Red Sea oil port with millions of barrels a day are loaded. So that lets you know we're gonna be seeing these oil wars and these nuclear wars between these nations. So three categories: economical wars, oil wars, and nuclear wars, and that's what we're seeing right now at the moment between these nations. That's why we're seeing nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom in three categories: nuclear wars, oil wars, and sanction wars. It says Yanbu, a Saudi Arabia Red Sea oil port where millions of barrels a day are loaded, has become the main route of Saudi's oil skirting the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran has blocked it. The Red Sea blockage declared by the Houthis against the Saudi ships. It says shippings between the Yanbu it has itself faced a disruption since the Houthis declared a blockage on the Saudi Atlantic vessels in the Red Sea last month. It says the Houthis has carried out attacks on Saudi oil facilities and shipping in the Red Sea in recent weeks, and they claim that they have targeted Saudi oil giants Aramco, a facility in Yoruba in July. So get to that Joel, the third chapter. Yeah, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3. Then I'm gonna get to that Ezekiel. Yeah, it's the book of Joel, chapter 3, and verse 9. Yeah, it's the book of Salakia. Yeah, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right? So the Spirit proclaim among the Gentiles, the armies of the nations. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Right, so let all the men of war draw near, let them come up with these economical wars, with these oil wars, these sanction wars, these nuclear wars, and those four categories that I just mentioned. And that's what we see in the nations are rising against one another as they continue to be gathered up over there in the Middle East, which is up Western Asia, throughout those whole regions. Over there in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza Strip, West Bank, Palestinian territory, the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, and over there in Yemen and that area as well too. So tensions are still going to continue to intensify on a daily basis, despite the fact they're trying to push off these peace deals and ceasefire agreements, which previously collapsed. I'm surprised it collapsed once again. This is Joel chapter 3, verse 10. It says, beat your plowshares and swords and appoint hooks and the spears, and let the weak say I'm strong. Right, so let the weak say I'm strong. That's what we're seeing from the Houthi rebels rising against the adversaries. We're seeing that the proxy groups, the pro-Iranian groups, rising against the Israel Defense Force and their allies over there in Western Asia. So that's still going to lead up to the Third World War. And this is the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, like I mentioned again about 10 minutes ago, about the tension between Russia and Ukraine is only going to intensify. This is like the fifth year of this war between Russia and Ukraine, so it's only going to intensify. Yeah, this is the book of Ezekiel. Yeah, the book of Ezekiel 30 and verse 4, then I'm closing out. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 30 and verse 4. It says, now return thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and bring thee forth in all thy army, horsemen, all of them, cloth for all sorts of armor, even in great company of shields, all of them having swords, right? So the Russia-Ukraine situation, NATO, the European Union, its allies, they still going to be rising against Russia, especially with the latest escalation heating up over there in the Black Sea between Great Britain and Russia and Germany as well too, and allies, and these other nations that's allies with NATO and the European Union versus Belarus and Russia. So that's going to heat up. That's going to lead up to the Third World War. So with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. This was just a prophecy updates as of August the 24th, 2026. On this Monday afternoon. So hopefully this was edifying. And with that, I would like to give all praises and glory now to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. The true name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashkadas Holy Tongue. And I say Barakathum to the elders and apostles, Aki and Akwafas as always. Until next time, I would say Kuman Sharala and above all, and Shalom.